Donald Trump is back in the headlines, and this time the breaking story comes with a twist that is both unprecedented and shocking. The president has once again placed himself at the center of global attention, claiming, yet again, that he knows more than anyone else. More than the generals about conflict, more than the scientists about wind, more than the experts about almost everything. And while these self-proclaimed achievements aren't new, what's unfolding right now is game-changing. Because one country, in particular, has prepared a rather unusual and, some would say, humiliating present for DT as he makes another visit to the United Kingdom. Now, if you've been following Trump's career, you know this much is true. He has always insisted that he alone has the answers, that he alone sees the truth. But according to independent fact-checkers, and most notably the Washington Post, that claim collapses under the weight of an extraordinary record. On his watch, Trump reached a milestone almost no leader in modern politics has ever come close to. He crossed the threshold of 2,000 documented lies while in office. Think about that for a moment. 2,000 falsehoods, 2,000 distortions, 2,000 deliberate departures from reality. That number has only grown since then, but even at that mark, it represented a staggering achievement in political misrepresentation. For those who remember his inauguration, the pattern was set from the very beginning. Trump insisted his crowd was the largest in history. Photos told a different story. His press secretary at the time, Sean Spicer, famously called those numbers alternative facts. It wasn't just a dispute about turnout. It was the first signal of how Trump would redefine truth itself in the public arena. From there, the lies became routine. About healthcare, about Russia, about his business dealings, about policies foreign and domestic. And through it all, he asked Americans and the world to believe him. Believe me. Those two words became his mantra, repeated endlessly, as if repetition alone could erase reality. The truth, however, proved harder to bury. Fact-checkers documented his falsehoods relentlessly, and by the time his presidency hit that 2,000 mark, DT had become known as the most prolific liar in modern political history. To put it bluntly, if lying were a sport, Trump would be the undisputed champion. And that brings us to the present moment. Because as Trump prepares once again to step onto British soil, the United Kingdom is preparing a welcome unlike any other. In a move that has drawn international attention, Channel 4, one of Britain's leading public broadcasters, has announced that it will air a marathon segment called DT versus the Truth. This won't be satire. This won't be commentary. It will be an unbroken reel, hours of Trump's own words, juxtaposed with facts that dismantle them one by one. More than 100 falsehoods, more than 100 corrections, the longest uninterrupted broadcast of lies ever put together for television. The idea, according to Channel 4's content director Ian Katz, is simple but devastating. The network wants to remind viewers how dangerous it can be when the most powerful man on earth shows little regard for the truth. This is not the first time the British broadcaster has used its platform to make a statement. Before the 2019 general election, when then Prime Minister Boris Johnson refused to participate in a climate debate, Channel 4 replaced him with a melting block of ice. It was a striking visual, a way of underlining political absence. And now they are applying the same playbook to Donald Trump, this time on a much larger scale. For Trump, the timing is awkward. He has long prided himself on his Scottish ancestry and his golf resorts across the UK. These visits are supposed to be moments of prestige, a chance to reinforce personal ties and political clout. Instead, he arrives under a cloud of broadcast exposure that promises to follow him wherever he goes. Even if he retreats quickly to one of his golf courses, the story will trail behind him. The spectacle is unavoidable. This is more than a publicity stunt. It lands at a time when Trump himself has waged war on public broadcasting in the United States. His budget proposals sought to eliminate funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, forcing NPR and PBS affiliates to survive entirely on donations and sponsorships. For rural and lower-income areas, That has created real uncertainty. And now, in an ironic twist, a foreign public broadcaster is turning Trump's own tactics back on him, using its platform to expose the very behavior he denies. The implications go beyond personal embarrassment. On the international stage, this kind of broadcast represents a form of soft power, media as a weapon, truth as a counter to disinformation. Britain is signaling not only to DT, but to the world that political leaders who manipulate facts will be called out publicly and unapologetically. For the United States, it adds another layer of complexity to DT's already polarizing reputation abroad. Allies are watching, rivals are watching, and in an age where perception often shapes policy, the optics matter as much as the reality. Reactions are already pouring in. Supporters of Trump dismiss the Channel 4 broadcast as yet another example of elite media bias, arguing that the former president's critics have always exaggerated his flaws. Critics, on the other hand, see it as a necessary reminder, a corrective in an era where lies often spread faster than truth. Within the UK itself, the move has been greeted with a mix of admiration and amusement. For many Britons, it aligns with a long tradition of political satire and sharp-edged comedy. What happens next will depend on how Trump chooses to respond. Will he ignore the broadcast? Will he attack it on social media, as he has with other critical coverage? Or will he attempt to reframe it as evidence of his global relevance, arguing that no other leader commands this kind of attention? The answer may come in hours, not days, as his visit unfolds. And all eyes will be on the United Kingdom to see whether this unprecedented broadcast becomes a turning point in how political leaders are held accountable internationally. The stakes are high. If this approach gains traction, other broadcasters in other countries may adopt similar tactics, using uninterrupted reels of political statements to cut through noise and reveal patterns of deception. For Trump, that could mean a legacy not just of controversy, but of exposure. A legacy defined as much by what he said as by the way those words were dissected and disproven. Either way, it marks a new chapter in the ongoing struggle between political power and public truth.